Mariana Trench was never meant to be explored this deep.
It's attacking the arm. We have to get out of here.
But when cameras finally reached the bottom, they captured something moving, structured, fast. Then the feed was cut.
System's unresponsive. I can't get the sonar back online. Check the manual override now.
No glitch, no warning, just silence. And when engineers checked the logs, the AI flagged it as human form movement.
Movement detected. Subject identification, human.
What did it really see? And why are satellites now banned from looking down there? The descent that wasn't supposed to surprise anyone. The mission itself was routine by modern deep-sea standards. Using remotely operated vehicles developed for Hadal exploration, scientists from organizations including NOAA and international partners lowered ultra-high-definition camera systems into the Mariana Trench, targeting depths past 10,800 meters. These dives were not designed to hunt mysteries. Their purpose was data, mapping the seafloor, cataloging known life, and testing how electronics behave under pressures exceeding 16,000 pounds per square inch. Fun fact most people don't realize: at these depths, even steel compresses measurably, and camera housings are often made from titanium alloys originally developed for spacecraft. The ROVs descend for hours in total darkness, guided only by sonar and inertial navigation. Nothing down there moves fast. Most known creatures drift, crawl, or pulse slowly to conserve energy. That expectation matters. As the vehicle reached the deepest planned segment of the dive, the cameras captured familiar sights: amphipods swarming bait, translucent snailfish hovering just above the sediment, and fine particulate matter drifting like underwater snow. Then, without warning, the motion sensors logged something unusual. Lateral movement crossing the vehicle's path at a speed faster than passive currents but slower than mechanical propulsion. Seconds later, the video feed showed a dark form passing the edge of the frame. It wasn't clear enough to identify, but it appeared structured, not amorphous. Then the signal dropped. This wasn't a total power failure. Pressure, temperature, and internal diagnostics stayed normal. What failed was transmission. Engineers later confirmed that multiple redundant data channels experienced corruption at the same moment, something rare enough that it triggers mandatory review. One fun but unsettling fact: signal corruption and electronic noise have been documented, usually from internal or cabling-related sources. Officially, the incident was logged as an unclassified visual anomaly. That phrase alone fueled speculation. Some marine biologists suggested an unusually large deep-sea organism moving closer to the vehicle than expected, overwhelming sensors. Others pointed to deep-sea turbidity flows, though those typically don't produce discrete movement signatures. More speculative theories emerged online, ranging from undiscovered predators to debris from human activity that somehow reached the trench. There is no evidence of artificial structures or machines. But the uncomfortable truth remains: less than 1% of the Mariana Trench has been visually observed. A signal cut or a kill switch? When the video feed cut out during that trench descent, the immediate assumption was technical malfunction. But what bothered some of the engineers wasn't just the timing. It was how clean the failure was. Typically, when deep-sea data links break, you get garbled footage, dropout spikes, or frame skipping. This time, nothing. Just an instantaneous loss of signal across 3 redundant channels: optical, digital, and analog, as if someone had flipped a switch. Here's what makes it even stranger. In the seconds before the feed went dead, internal logs from the ROV captured a faint high-frequency vibration, barely detectable, but real. This kind of oscillation doesn't match propulsion noise or marine animal movement. One theory? Directed sonar interference, the kind used in military-grade systems to jam signals underwater. This has led to growing whispers in the marine science community. What if they weren't alone down there? Some researchers now suspect that portions of the Mariana Trench may already be under active surveillance, by classified programs. A 2017 leak from a Japanese sonar research team referenced long-range active sonar pings returning false echoes, picked up at over 34,000 feet. Such returns would be highly unusual because complex sound speed gradients caused by temperature, salinity, and pressure typically distort or weaken acoustic signals at those depths. But something was bouncing them back. Another mission anomaly? A remotely piloted submersible sent to recover a probe mysteriously never returned. The official explanation was pressure failure, but the last telemetry packet received from the unit showed it was ascending successfully, until a sudden vertical freefall dropped it off sonar at a depth below the known seafloor in that sector. Multiple bathymetric maps now conflict on the exact trench topography, suggesting that unmapped crevasses or artificial voids may exist. And the most chilling part, one of the mission's data analysts anonymously claimed that just before the blackout, the ROV's object recognition AI briefly tagged a shape in the feed with a label used only in testing. Human form movement flagged for review. Coincidence? Malfunction? Or did the AI see something it wasn't supposed to? Whatever it was, the system flagged it just once, and then the feed was gone. The creature that shouldn't exist. In the hours following the signal loss, the recovery team managed to salvage a partial frame from the onboard cache. Just one. It was corrupted and blurry, but several analysts claimed to see the outline of a multi-limbed organism coiled or curled near the sediment. At first, it was dismissed as artifact noise, maybe even a trick of compression errors. But then came the strange part. The limb segments appeared symmetrical, and worse, jointed backward in a way not consistent with any known marine life. One marine biologist, who later requested anonymity, said the formation looked more like an insect from a nightmare than a creature of the sea. But that shouldn't be possible. Arthropods as we know them can't survive at those crushing pressures. Their exoskeletons would collapse. And yet the faint lines visible in the frame resemble a segmented carapace, bending in ways that suggest rapid directional control. That one blurry image triggered a flurry of speculation behind closed doors. Could this be an example of parallel evolution? A deep-sea creature developing insect-like locomotion in total darkness, millions of years removed from the surface biosphere? Or worse, could it be something older? One fringe theory now gaining quiet attention comes from deep-time biologists studying pre-Cambrian fauna. They've long argued that the ocean floor might still house lineages that branched off before the Cambrian explosion, life that predates bones, lungs, and eyes as we know them. Some of these primitive lineages, now only visible in fossils like Dickinsonia or Hallucigenia, had bizarre alien anatomies with no modern descendants. If anything like them somehow survived in a trench ecosystem, untouched by sunlight or predators for hundreds of millions of years, it might look exactly like what was captured in that frame. What makes this especially compelling is that deep-sea gigantism is a real documented phenomenon. Creatures like Bathynomus giganteus, the giant isopod, or the supergiant amphipod found in the trench in 2019 show how species in total isolation can grow to abnormal sizes. But a giant, segmented predator with possible cognitive behavior? That would rewrite evolutionary biology overnight. No one has confirmed the frame's contents. Some believe it's just deep-sea debris shaped by coincidence. But others, especially those who've seen the raw footage, aren't so sure. And until another expedition reaches the exact same point in the trench with uninterrupted cameras, that blurred frame remains the only trace of what might be the most biologically impossible creature ever recorded. The sound that shouldn't be heard down there. Long before the recent blackout incident, researchers had already recorded something in the Mariana Trench that no one could explain. Not with biology, not with geology, and definitely not with current science. It's known informally among acoustic researchers as the Western Pacific biotwang. Captured in 2014 by NOAA's autonomous underwater hydrophones, This low-frequency sound lasted for about 3.5 seconds and consisted of 5 distinct tonal parts, rising and falling in a pattern unlike any known animal call. Now here's the catch. Most whale calls, even the weirdest ones, fall within a consistent acoustic envelope, usually between 15 to 25 Hz, with variations for species and location. But the bio-twang call dipped well below that into infrasonic territory, where human ears can't detect it naturally. It resembled the vocal pattern of a baleen whale, but with a twist. It didn't match any known species, and it was detected over 30,000 feet below the surface, a depth far beyond where any known vocalizing whale can survive. Multiple expeditions have since tried to reproduce or triangulate the origin of this sound. Some claimed it could be related to geological activity, like tectonic plate movement or gas venting, but the waveform structure didn't match seismic noise patterns. In fact, one marine acoustician noted that the harmonics were too structured, too deliberate for a natural geological source. That sparked a new round of theories, some scientific, others deeply speculative. One hypothesis floated by ex-Navy sonar experts was that the sound may be a form of non-human communication, possibly by deep-dwelling life forms adapted to the dark, pressurized silence of the Hadal zone. Others took it further, suggesting that the bio-twang could be an echolocation method used by massive predators that dwell in trench ecosystems, rarely approaching shallower depths. The most outlandish theory? That the sound wasn't made by something in the trench, but was coming from beneath it. That's right. Some researchers now speculate there could be hollow zones or subterranean aquatic chambers under the seafloor that act like massive resonating domes, amplifying unknown acoustic sources. If true, it would mean the trench isn't just a graveyard of geological history, but a gateway to something deeper than we've ever considered. The lights that shouldn't exist. While most people associate the depths of the Mariana Trench with total blackness, multiple deep-sea expeditions over the past 2 decades have reported something utterly unexpected: brief flashes of structured light deep beneath the photic zone. These are not bioluminescent glows from jellyfish or lanternfish. These are directed, pulsing, or angular lights, seen at depths far below the reach of sunlight and inconsistent with any known life form behavior. The first major incident dates back to 2002, during a Chinese deep-sea probe mission, when remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, captured a triangular light formation hovering approximately 10,900 meters deep. At first, analysts believed it to be lens flare or internal reflection, but the lights appeared again, briefly aligning into a sharp arc before fading. That clip was never officially released, but whispers of it spread through oceanographic circles. In 2016, during NOAA's Okeanos Explorer mission near the Enigma Seamount, a mission designed to map unexplored seafloor terrain and document deep-sea geological features, something similar occurred. A glowing arc, moving perpendicular to current direction, was caught by the sub's rear camera, not once but 3 separate times. The lights were described by observers as too slow for electrical interference, too symmetrical for biology, and too deep for human-made submersibles. The footage, which was broadcast live, was quickly cut, replaced with a loss of feed message. But sharp-eyed viewers had already captured clips. Speculations exploded online. Some believed the lights were the result of exotic deep-sea organisms using unknown bioelectrical processes, an advanced form of biophotonic signaling never before recorded. Others, more controversially, suggested the trench might host non-terrestrial monitoring equipment, camouflaged probes or autonomous systems left behind by unknown intelligence, either ancient or modern. A few scientists have floated a less wild but equally chilling theory that these lights may be from ultra-deep volcanic activity, possibly emitting rare forms of blue-shifted radiation not fully understood. However, if true, it would mean there are volcanic systems operating at trench depths that defy current tectonic models. Adding fuel to the mystery, there's increasing evidence of data redaction in public logs. Several independent researchers have noticed that official expedition datasets contain time-stamped video gaps, segments marked unavailable due to corruption, that correlate exactly with moments light anomalies were reported. The tremors with no quake. In early 2020, a series of seismic anomalies shook the region surrounding the Mariana Trench. At first, researchers logged them as microquakes, barely noticeable shifts deep under the seabed. But when analysts at the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology, JAMSTEC, reviewed the wave patterns, they noticed something that didn't add up. The tremors had no clear epicenter. Earthquakes normally radiate from a single source, an identifiable crack or plate shift. But these tremors seemed to ripple upward from deep within the trench itself, as if something massive had moved from below and displaced the surrounding pressure dome. One senior seismologist described the waveform as having a reversed profile, meaning the force originated underneath the mapped trench floor, somewhere we didn't even know had depth. Even more unnerving? The tremors were short, rhythmic, and repeated every few days over a 2-week window, but always between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. local time. That pattern doesn't match any known tectonic behavior. Some researchers suggested it might be connected to hydrothermal vent activity or shifting gas pockets, but no supporting geothermal activity was detected in the area. This led to a series of internal memos between agencies, including NOAA and USGS, which were partially leaked months later. In one memo, a researcher stated, "The amplitude curve is consistent with mechanical displacement, not crustal movement. It feels like something is shifting large mass from below." This idea, that there may be massive mobile forces operating beneath the trench floor, ties into a growing theory that the trench might not just be deep, it might be hollow in sections, riddled with unmapped voids created by ancient subduction or unknown geological processes. But some voices have gone further. Former defense contractors and marine engineers, speaking off the record, have floated the idea that the movement could be artificial, the slow relocation of megastructures, or the reactivation of dormant deep-sea systems. A few have even whispered about buried architecture beneath the trench, designed to resist detection until tectonic decay exposes it. Although no official agency has confirmed these ideas, what we know is this: tremors without epicenters, moving from below a trench already 36,000 feet deep, shouldn't happen. And yet, the sensors recorded them. The satellite that wasn't allowed to look down. In 2021, independent skywatchers and satellite tracking enthusiasts noticed something unusual. Multiple Earth-observing satellites, including U.S. government and private commercial imaging units, had abruptly adjusted their orbital camera programming to exclude a large rectangular zone directly over the Mariana Trench. The revelation came from satellite telemetry logs shared through open-access repositories used by researchers and amateurs alike. According to a breakdown published on a German aerospace forum, high-resolution imaging satellites like Digital Globe's WorldView 4 and Japan's ALOS 2 had marked segments of their orbital imaging schedules with no capture directive notices, highly unusual for open ocean areas with no restricted airspace. Why would satellites designed to capture global terrain intentionally skip the deepest part of Earth's ocean? Theories erupted. Some claimed it was simply to conserve memory, though that logic fell apart quickly. These systems are designed for continuous capture and compression. Others suggested solar glare issues, but again, that doesn't apply over dark ocean trenches. The real clue came when a declassified FOIA request revealed that a DARPA-linked imaging project, scheduled to pass over the trench in July 2020, had its optical window blacked out by third-party order. That's not normal, not even in conflict zones. One leaked engineering memo hinted at the reason: interference in multispectral data bands from unknown reflective structures beneath surface, suspected artifact triggering onboard false positive hazard flags. In simpler terms, Something down there was reflecting light or energy back into space, something large enough and structured enough to confuse the satellite's hazard detection software. That should be impossible. At over 11,000 meters deep, no sunlight reaches the trench floor, let alone enough to bounce back into orbit. Some researchers speculated the presence of metallic structures, perhaps large mineral-rich formations or hydrothermal deposits. But others, especially those on deep ocean surveillance contracts, quietly admitted that nothing known could produce that level of signal clarity unless it had geometric surface features. So the real question became, what kind of object, structure, or system could sit at the bottom of the Mariana Trench and still be visible to space-based imaging? Even more haunting, since 2022, no civilian satellite has been allowed to schedule direct imaging over the coordinates of the blackout incident. Not NOAA, not ESA, not even private platforms like Maxar. Where gravity acts? Strange. During a routine instrument drop in 2015, scientists from the University of Aberdeen's Ocean Lab deployed a weighted lander to capture footage of deep-sea amphipods and collect sediment samples near the trench's eastern slope. But what caught them off guard wasn't the life forms, it was the lander's descent pattern. Instead of falling at a constant rate, as modeled under the pressure and fluid dynamics of that depth, the lander slowed dramatically as it approached the trench floor. Instruments detected an unexpected buoyancy increase in the final 300 meters, not caused by trapped air or equipment failure. The lander didn't just drift, it hovered, unnaturally stabilized, before settling unevenly on the seabed. That anomaly prompted a series of follow-up drops by both Japanese and Russian vessels, including Japan's Shinkai 6500 and Russia's Vityaz D. Each reported a similar effect, instruments falling slower than expected in very specific trench zones, sometimes taking hours longer to reach the bottom than predicted. The water temperature and salinity were consistent with other areas. No volcanic venting or unusual gas layers were detected. Yet in those spots, mass seemed to behave differently. One theory suggests localized density gradients, maybe layers of supercompressed water or dissolved particulate matter that create upward pressure pockets. But that still doesn't explain the second observation. In these same zones, fine sediment didn't fall at all. Instead of drifting to the floor, disturbed sediment floated suspended mid-water, as if trapped in a zero-gravity field. This triggered wild speculation. Some theorized that a magnetic anomaly, possibly caused by deep iron-rich formations, was creating strange microcurrents. Others hinted at exotic energy emissions interacting with the trench's natural pressures. But a lesser-known and highly controversial idea is that these anomalies represent geospatial distortion, temporary warping of physical constants in extreme pressure environments, where gravity, mass, and density might fluctuate in ways modern physics can't yet account for. One set of classified notes from a military-aligned oceanographic survey, later leaked to marine researchers, reportedly described these trench zones as gravity wells with inconsistent boundaries. The phrase shocked physicists because it implied that space-time might be behaving differently in isolated pockets under the ocean.